of the military in the ongoing counterinsurgency war is the enduring defeat of terrorist groups across the country and the dismantling of their military capabilities such that they can no longer terrorize or hurt citizens. Accordingly, the armed forces remains focused on achieving this aim. Now, as in every war, there are complexities, and ours is no exception. Recently, cases of citizens being abducted in theaters of operations in the Northeast, Northwest, and North Central were recorded. These citizens were abducted by a brutal and bloodthirsty group that should be addressed as terrorists and not bandits. I repeat, these are terrorists and not bandits. They are holding these citizens against their will and against all norms of human behavior and against the laws of armed conflict and any good measure in the world. No doubt, this is a difficult situation, but not one that is insurmountable. The hostage situation is an extremely sensitive one, which unfortunately is not unprecedented in the history of the ongoing war. The hostages are being held in locations that are difficult to get to, but not out of reach. The situation is, however, indicative of the desperation of these terrorists to avoid troops' onslaught by all means. You may recall that in recent times, troops have decimated several of the terrorist leaders, their commanders, and their foot soldiers, and are fast closing in on several others. The terrorists have exhibited gross cowardice by going for such soft targets to impede troops' advances. I assure you that we will not rest until these hostages are returned. Meanwhile, during the week under review, troops neutralized 226 kidnapped hostages during the week. In the South-South, troops denied the oil theft of over 1.5 billion naira within the week. Furthermore, troops recovered 189 assorted weapons and over 4,000 assorted ammunition. The breakdown of the weapons and ammunition as follows. 111 AK-47 rifles were recovered this week. 31 locally fabricated guns were recovered this week, including improvised explosive devices, among others. Others include 2,766 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammo recovered this week, as well as 982 rounds of 7.62 millimeter NATO ammunition also recovered this week, including 44 motorcycles, among others. Troops in the Niger Delta area discovered and destroyed 150 dugout pits, 30 boats, 73 storage tanks, over 200 drums filled with illegally refined AGO and 15 vehicles. Other items include 105 cooking ovens destroyed, 45 illegal refining sites equally destroyed, among others. Troops recovered over 1,200,000 liters of stolen crude oil this week. They equally recovered over 300,000 liters of illegally refined AGO, otherwise known as diesel, and over 30,000 liters of PMS, otherwise known as petrol, this week. I will now take us through the various theaters of operation, beginning with the Northeast, where we have Operation Harden K. A significant occurrence in Operation Harden K area of responsibility during the period under review is the case of abduction. This is how it occurred. On the 3rd of March, troops received information from the coordinator of Borno State Emergency Management Agency. The information was about suspected abduction of unknown number of internal displaced persons by terrorists in Gaboru, Ngala local government area of Borno State. Afterwards, preliminary investigation revealed that the internally displaced persons left camp to undisclosed locations to fetch firewood, which was beyond the permissible distance approved of 5 to 7 kilometers from their camp. Now, these internally displaced persons did not notify the camp authorities of their movement. It was later that same night, at about 20-30 hours at night, when the IDPs did not return to camp, that alarm was raised as to the possible abduction by terrorists. It was at this stage that troops were notified of the incident. The standard practice was for troops to be notified prior to any movement of the internally displaced persons beyond permissible distance of 5 to 7 kilometers from their camp. So the IDPs were told, reportedly went beyond the permissible distance to get firewood as a result of the deforestation around their camp. Now, these terrorists abducted 112 of the internally displaced persons in the process. Nevertheless, effort is ongoing to get back these hostages, and like I mentioned earlier, we will not rest until every single one of them gets back. Overall, troops of Operation Harden K, in the conduct of their operations this week, neutralized 70 terrorists and arrested 23 of them. Troops recovered 1 G3 rifle, 50 AK-47 rifles, 8 fabricated guns, over 1,000 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammunition, and over 200 rounds of 7.62 millimeter NATO ammunition, among others. Let's now move to the North Central, where we have Operation Safe Haven. The troops of Operation Safe Haven recorded the following during the period under review. Troops arrested violent extremists in Bokos, Barkinladi, and Mangu local government areas of Plateau State. Troops also arrested a gun runner in Riom, local government area of Plateau State. Additionally, troops arrested violent extremists involved in murder and kidnap in Zango Kataf and Riom, local government areas of Kaduna and Plateau states, respectively. Furthermore, troops foiled a robbery incident in Jama, local government area of Kaduna State. Troops also, in conjunction with National Drug Law Enforcement Agency personnel, conducted a successful raid in Bokos, local government area of Plateau State. Overall, the troops of Operation Safe Haven neutralized 2 insurgents and arrested 16 violent extremists during the week. Troops also recovered 185 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, 25 rounds of 7.62mm NATO ammunition, among others. Now, still in the North Central, let's talk about Operation Wild Stroke. Troops of Operation Wild Stroke recorded the following during the week under review. Troops conducted fighting patrols in Ukum and Kwande local government areas of Benue State. They also raided violent extremist hideouts in Ado, Ukum, and Opoku local government areas of Benue State. Additionally, they arrested kidnappers in Saudauna and Takum local government areas of Taraba State. Overall, the troops of Operation Wild Stroke neutralized 7 violent extremists during the week, and they arrested 2 of them. Troops also recovered 2 locally fabricated guns, 74 rounds of 7.62mm NATO ammunition, and 2 motorcycles, among others. We can now cross over to the northwest, where we have Operation Hadarin Daji. Now, another significant occurrence happened in Operation Hadarin Daji during the period under review. And this occurrence is the second case of abduction. The details are as follows. On the 9th of March, terrorists invaded and kidnapped 16 pupils, otherwise called Almajiris, with a woman in Gada, local government area of Sokoto State. The incident took place at about 0100 hours, which otherwise known as 1 a.m. And it was not reported to troops until about 1500 hours, otherwise 3 p.m. of the same day. Now, the late reporting of this incident affected troops' response time in the ongoing search and rescue effort. And like I mentioned earlier, we will not rest until every single one of the kidnapped hostages is returned. Overall, troops of Operation Hadarin Daji, in the conduct of offensive operations during the week, neutralized 26 terrorists and rescued 15 kidnapped hostages. Troops recovered 22 AK-47 rifles, 390 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, among others. Still on the Northwest, let's take a look at Operation Wild Punch. There was also another significant occurrence during the week in Operation Wild Punch area of responsibility, and this is the third case of abduction. The details are as follows. On the 7th of March, troops received information that terrorists had invaded LEA school in Chipum local government area of Kaduna State. The report indicated that they had abducted unconfirmed number of pupils. Now, this incident was reported barely an hour or two after it occurred, and similarly, like in the other two cases, troops had no prior knowledge of the activity that was going to go on in the school and was not notified timely in order to respond adequately in search and rescue. Nevertheless, we will not rest until these hostages are returned. Overall, troops of Operation Wild Punch, in the conduct of its offensive operations during the week, neutralized 17 terrorists, arrested 42 of them, and rescued 9 kidnapped hostages. Troops recovered 11 AK-47 rifles during the week. They also recovered 176 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, as well as 97 rounds of 7.62mm NATO ammunition, among others. We can now move down to the south-south, where we have Operation Delta Safe. The troops of Operation Delta Safe maintained the momentum against the activities of crude oil theft. They destroyed several illegal refining sites and equally recovered stolen products during the week. Troops' offensive activities include the destruction of illegal refining sites, the arrest of violent extremists and oil bunkerers in Okpe and Boni local government areas of Delta and Rivers states, respectively. Troops equally foiled a kidnap incident in Akoko Edo local government area of Edo State. They also discovered violent extremists, arms and ammo dump, improvised explosive device and drones manufacturing factory in Anyaocha local government area of Delta State. Furthermore, troops raided a violent extremist and drug dealer hideout in Boki local government area of Cross River State. Overall, the troops of Operation Delta Safe recovered over 1.2 million liters of stolen crude oil, over 310,000 liters of illegally refined AGO, and over 31,000 liters of PMS. Additionally, the troops of Operation Delta Safe destroyed and also discovered 150 dugout pits, 30 boats, and 73 storage tanks. Other items recovered include, or destroyed include, 105 cooking ovens, 209 drums filled with illegal refined products, 65 illegal refining sites, among others. The troops rescued 4 kidnapped hostages and apprehended 85 persons involved in oil theft and other violent extremist activities. Now, to the southeast, where we have Operation Udoka. The troops of Operation Udoka recorded the following during the week. They conducted offensive operation in Yala, local government area of Anambra State. Troops with hybrid forces also raided violent extremists, otherwise the indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network cohorts, Supreme and Military Council headquarters in Oguta and Osu local government areas of Imo State. Overall, the troops of Operation Udoka neutralized 26 terrorists and recovered 3 G3 rifles and 12 AK-47 rifles. Others include 269 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammunition, as well as 216 rounds of 7.62 millimeter NATO ammunition, among others. Now, all the recovered items, arrested persons, rescued hostages were handed over to the relevant authorities for further action, including prosecution. Now, given the hostage situation, it can be deduced that the search and rescue effort was grossly affected by the non-timely notification of troops of the incidents. Nevertheless, like I mentioned earlier, I can assure you that we will not rest until these hostages are returned. However, because of the sensitivity of this matter, I cannot go into further details as to signs of life, location, and the different options that we have in order to get these hostages back. It is ongoing operation. However, I can further assure that getting these hostages back is very clearly on the top of our priority. It is for this reason we have leveraged on our international partners for support. Accordingly, they are providing the necessary support, including intelligence, that is giving us the advantage in dealing with the ugly situation. Importantly, and as is often said, we are at war, and ugly things happen during war. During times of war, it is commonplace to witness activities such as propaganda, deception, misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. Our situation is no different. There's therefore the need for citizens to be circumspect when they see posts from the adversary, when they see posts from terrorist groups and their cohorts, particularly in the social media space. I assure you that these groups feed on the attention that they receive in the media, whether it is intended to sway the populace. We must be cautious of how we relate with the post by the adversary and by the terrorist. We must avoid being used directly or indirectly against our national interest. Of recent, the terrorists initiated some posts that went viral indicating military platforms that were being burnt, that means military vehicles that were being burnt. It might interest you to know that that particular incident was reported in December 2023. And in that incident, only one soldier lost his life as a result of the attack. Afterwards, troops conducted synchronized attacks, killing the leader of that group and several others of his foot soldiers. The post that they made is clearly an act of desperation by the terrorists to conceal their weakness. Overall, I will say that we are winning the war and we are making life unbearable for the terrorists and their cohorts across the country. We will continue to degrade them each passing day. We have seriously depleted their ranks to the extent that they are now on a desperate recruitment drive. Hence, some of these abductions that we witnessed. Several of their leaders and their commanders have been neutralized as a result of troops' onslaught. They want to use these hostages as human shield for their survival. That is how desperate they are. Nevertheless, be assured that we will not rest until these hostages are returned. Now, as patriotic citizens, we must resist the temptation to celebrate posts from terrorists and enemies of the state. These are not good people. Rather, they are devils from the pit of hell. Consequently, if you find yourself celebrating terror, I say to you, you are wrong. Pure and simple. Thank you very much. John, earlier, if you have been following our operations and the successes that we've been achieving across the theater, it will make you understand more easily what's going on. Our operations have been taking out terrorist leaders, their commanders, and their foot soldiers. Troops have unleashed an onslaught on them, making life unbearable and too hot for them to remain. So what have they done? They've gone for soft targets. And the reason is obvious. To use those soft targets as human shield, and also to surge a recruitment drive because we have depleted their ranks. I will add that one thing I see common in most of the abduction cases that occurred was that the military was not given prior notice and notified on time in order for us to embark on a quick intervention of a search and rescue effort. This is not the time to trade blames. What I can assure is that we will not rest until all of these hostages are returned. And as I did mention, we have support from our international partners. We have intelligence. However, because it is ongoing operation, there's only so much I can speak about. Thank you very much. Wow. It's like these people. We're in a state of war, and where you have war, ugly things happen. Yes, sir. And so, Nigeria is no exception for some of these things that happen during war. When you have war, you have propaganda, you have deception, misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and all the rest. And it is for this reason that I say to citizens, you need to be circumspect when these things are coming from the adversary. The adversary is not your friend. Like I said, the adversary is the enemy. They don't mean well. They are demons from the pit of hell, and we are trying to get rid of them. So when you see or find yourself celebrating terror, you should just know that you're on the wrong. Pure and simple. You must not give them the traction that they need in the media. That's that about post by the adversary. Now, troops have also indicated their gallantry, their bravery, and their commitment to the aim of our ongoing operations across the country, which is to defeat the terrorists and ensure that they no longer terrorize our citizens so that our citizens can live in peace and harmony. And this was demonstrated in the southeast, where we found at a location factory manufacturing weapons and drones, which has been applauded by one of you here. That investigation and the arrest is ongoing. What will come out of it later, I will share. Now, to the issue of the Safe School Initiative. I will say that mine is to look at our operations and see what is significant amongst what is ongoing and bring it to you for your consumption. I may therefore have to refer you to the appropriate office that will give you more details as to the Safe School initiative. And that I will do immediately after this briefing. For the incident that happened in Borno and others, like I said, the terrorists have exhibited gross cowardice. Gross cowardice. Because if you have been following our operations, you will know that we've been going after them, been taking them out, been taking several of their leaders out. The other day, I reeled out names of commanders that have been taken out constantly on a daily basis. I told you that we just recently received some platforms for the Air Force. Those platforms are not for jokes. If you sitting here do not know the meaning of those platforms, I tell you that the terrorists know the meaning. And it is to protect themselves that they now switch into these soft targets. But nonetheless, we know what to do. It's an ongoing operation, so I cannot talk so much about it. But when we're talking about location and all that, forget that one. We know what to do. And as I mentioned, we will not rest until all these hostages return. Thank you very much.